Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. If you're watching on the YouTube video this morning, you see I'm in the mobile studio setup. That's right. Had a nice sold-out show last night with Katie Thurston in San Diego. Decided to stay the night, and here we are. So this is your report from the Hyatt. Give it a thumbs up. How about you like it and leave a comment if you enjoy the mobile studio setup. We are here for you guys out there. I will have more on the Katie Thurston sold-out stand-up show in a video coming up, but a couple things to get to. First, sources. And by the way, I can't make this content fast enough. Within hours yesterday, we had a source that said ABC wants Chris Harrison back. They said the show's failing, and they want to bring him back to regain them back to the glory days, And then another source comes out in a story 2 hours later that says, ABC says, nope, that's not happening. And of course, they could be completely different sources that know different things, or it could be a bunch of BS. So we're going to get into it right now. And someone wrote, hey, producers, do you really think that will fix the problem, the host? I don't think so. So I'm going to share the articles real quick, and then a couple Q&As that Chris Harrison is doing on his podcast. I think he's taking a note from my book. He's kind of ripping off our format, which is fine, Chris Harrison. You can join the power listeners over here if you want to be a part of the squad. And by the way, this first article was on Radar Online, and if you know, Radar doesn't exactly have good ratings. They have no credibility whatsoever, but we're going to report on it. Exit remorse, ABC considering bringing back ousted host Chris Harrison to boost ratings. Chris Harrison may soon have a new job opportunity with The Bachelor amid ABC's hopes to boost ratings, Radar Online has exclusively learned. And by exclusively learned, they mean they have no other content to make today. It's a slow time of year, Everyone is aware The Bachelor is on life support, spilled an insider. And then they say new host Jesse Palmer tried to fill his shoes, noted the well-placed source, questioning if Harrison would ever want to return after the way he was tossed aside, has reached out to ABC for comment. Top TV sources said the network is considering bringing back the ousted host who stepped aside from his role in February 2021 after defending a contestant who was shown in past photos attending an antebellum plantation-themed party. He resigned from his longtime hosting gig following his voice support of Bachelor contestant Rachel Kirkconnell. All right, so literally an hour after that story comes out, we have Daily Mail, which is probably not even a step up from Radar. They're probably the same beast. Says ABC denies reports they are considering bringing back Chris Harrison to save The Bachelor. By the way, what kind of headline is this? As the show is on life support 2 years after racism scandal saw him sent packing with $10 million payoff. So not exactly a concise title there. But ABC denied the reports. And again, there's in this story, they don't even have, it's like who at ABC? ABC's got probably 5,000 employees. So we don't even know who it was that was of course, we don't know the source and we don't know who's denying it. But either way, people are saying, this isn't what we want. So read some comments from BachelorNation.scoop. Give us the old Bachelor and quit asking us to nominate Grandma. Stop with producer manipulation and added drama. Nearer to the original format. Less manipulation by producers. Producers that don't manipulate the contestants. Not being so staged. So people seem to all want the same thing. It's like, look, it's almost as if I wonder if the producers are so ratings hungry. They forgot that people kind of like a fastball down the middle. We like a good spaghetti and meatballs. You know what I mean? We don't, there's a lot of shows out there. Love is Blind, Circle, Ultimatum, Too Hot to Handle, Too Cold to Cook. Whatever. Just making frozen food. Wouldn't that be nice? A dating show where you just find frozen food? I tell you what. I could host a dating show. I could host a cooking show where all I do is take you to the frozen food aisle of my favorite places and tell you what to get because I love a good, we'll call it air frying with Dave. Okay. So I've got a few clips from Chris Harrison's podcast. I'm just going to share those with you because that's what we're doing today. We will have a Bachelor Rush Hour podcast, and tomorrow I'll be back with the Patreon to discuss some more of the sort of personal side of how today's stand-up show went, or yesterday's stand-up show. But let's listen to what Chris Harrison has to say as he, of course, steals my business model and decides to take live calls. No, I'm just kidding. He, it's good for him for connecting with his fans, whatever you want to call it. So here, let me play. I got 3 different clips for you. Have a listen.
Hi.
How's
Good.
it?
How are you?
Doing great. Where in Wisconsin?
Outside of Milwaukee, suburbs of Milwaukee.
Got it. Great town, by the way, Milwaukee.
Did you ever take the show there?
No.
Yeah, it's underrated.
We did go because was it Nick Vial, right? He's Milwaukee guy, and I also back in the day I was a NCAA tournament spot for the University of Oklahoma when I was covering my basketball days.
Sportscaster days.
And we were in Milwaukee.
Get to
Anyway,
the question.
Heather,
Let's go.
we digress. This is about you. What's your question?
Sure do.
That's okay. My question was, I was wondering if you had any thoughts or comments or suggestions based on your years on the franchise of The Bachelor, if there's any changes that could be done, either small or big, that could potentially result in more relationships lasting, or even if it's not forever, that they last for a more significant relationship. The last few seasons, the last, I think at least 3 bachelorettes and a couple of bachelors, haven't had very good success rates. Whereas if you look at Bachelor in Paradise, you do have a lot more relationships that come out of that. Obviously, it's a different format, but thinking about the traditional show, if you had any thoughts,
It's a long question.
perhaps not, obviously it makes great television to have really over-the-top dates, but it's also not like real life. So perhaps dates that are a little bit more normal, or spending time with each other's friends more when you get to the end. Just kind of was wondering your thoughts,
Wrap it
because
up.
it just kind of feels like, not a lot of, relationships have actually
Right.
lasted
All right, so the question was, Chris Harrison's going to move them along. The question is, what do you think the show can do to be more successful?
too long.
You mean not
after the
everyone
show.
falls in love in a hot air balloon or naked on a beach in Tahiti? Well,
Right.
That's funny. I heard that all throughout my years of hosting the show, of people are like, come on, this isn't unrealistic. And I said, what's not fun is seeing our normal lives. Like, you're right. LZ and I, we're not jetting off every day. That's not our everyday date. We go to movies, we go to dinners. But obviously that doesn't make for great soap opera TV. And this is entertainment. It's escapism. It's as much about taking you away from that life as it is trying to represent it. But that was always an issue for us, Heather, all along. And it was from day one, we probably didn't do a great job of facilitating those relationships. And then we realized how we could better facilitate. And we did a decent job along the way. But the show, one of the things I loved about it, it was never predicated on the fact that it worked.
And this is what I love. Great. Did you hear that? It was never predicated on the fact that it worked. I love it. And hey, he's not wrong. No one ever said, hey, The Bachelor, where 100% of the contestants fall in love. It's a show about heartbreak.
It is wonderful when you get lightning in a
Yeah.
bottle and you see Tristan and Ryan or Sean and Catherine and you have those moments. But the great thing about the show is it's so relatable, because I don't know if you're married or dating or what have you, but it's relatable in that we all go through breakups.
It's relatable in that it doesn't work out. How funny. So funny out there. So if he goes on and on, let's just play 2 more clips, the 33-minute mark. But that's very telling, isn't it? That he says, look, this show's not relatable because it works. It's relatable because it doesn't. And that is life. He's like, it's relatable in that relationships don't always work out. Take my first marriage, for example.
A little bit of each of them,
Yeah.
just to see what everybody's doing. There's obviously the Bachelor Bachelorette version. Then there's so many twists and concepts out.
So we've heard from Jesse Palmer and Nick Lachey in their little beef about which show's more authentic. They had a dating show measuring contest where Nick said, Love is Blind is actually more authentic. And Jesse's like, well, Bachelor's like the original. It's pretty authentic. And I'm like, you're not, neither. You're 2 grown men with Botox. There's nothing authentic about you. But here we have Chris Harrison weighing his opinion on where Bachelor stands with all these other dating shows.
out there. But Heather, I appreciate you listening to the most dramatic podcast ever. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you find this genuine and very normal.
Well, the ratings will say that some people do and some people don't. Now, it's doing okay so far. The question we're going to have with Chris Harrison's podcast is, will people continue to tune in after, the initial bump of, like, there's no way his podcast is still rated number 1. I won't go into the ratings right now. Well, let's do it. Let's go right Chartable, and I'm going to go to the ratings for Chris Harrison's podcast, and I'll show you guys right now. So, and by all means, podcasts just don't stay on the top unless you're like crazy, crazy successful. But his podcast was ranked number 1 because new podcasts get to rank higher, and now it's ranked 202, which, by the way, is very high. For all podcasts in the United States, 202, that's incredible. It's ranked number 2 in relationships, and it's ranked up in globally, global for podcast reach. It's still in the top 200. So very strong ratings several weeks into the show. We'll continue to look at the ratings as time goes on. All right, 2 more clips. Let's play here. Or last clip, 3450. Let's have a listen to what he has to say.
It was one of those experiences, Chris, where I have to point out that this is what made me really mad about the media, about the spin, about the tabloids, is what happened to you. I found, even though you are a professional, you also are a human being. And I felt that when I met you, I thought, oh, don't meet the people you like. It's one of those scary things you do in life where you meet the people on TV and they could be absolute terrible people. And when I met you, you were such a nice guy. You were actually talkative. You gave me a minute of your time, and it was just, you guys were taping a lot and you guys were doing a lot, and you just were very genuine, very nice, and very humble. And
very genuine and very real. So a little character testimony from some of the people calling in to Chris Harrison's show. I wonder how he screens this. I only do live calls when I'm live streaming. I normally take voicemails, but I wonder if he's got a producer who just gets these guys waiting online. Of course, you're never going to get like real critical. I mean, by all means, what should he do? Start a podcast and let people call in and just shit talk him? So, like, I don't blame him for having, like, the people on that are, like, supportive of him. But I think all in all, as far as people go in the Hollywood community, Chris Harrison was always respected because he was on the biggest dating show, the host of one of the most coveted long-term shows. I mean, you've got, Survivor? You've got a couple of, like, the game shows that, the Pat Sajaks of the world. You have, and then you've got Chris Harrison. You've got Amazing Race, that guy. I mean, there aren't many shows. It's a small list. So while we see Chris Harrison in our little niche, he really does go down in the Hall of Fame of notable people that have hosted TV in the world, because the U.S. market's been one of the biggest, of course. And anyway, so whether you consider him disgraced or not, or justified or not, he's got some people that are saying, hey, you're not a bad guy. All right. And for those that want him to have difficult conversations, I agree. I think he should have Rachel Lindsay on. I think she should go on his, all that jazz. I've said it nonstop. Do I think that'll happen? I don't see Chris Harrison going on Higher Learning podcast as long as Van is a part of the conversation. As far as Chris's publicists go, I don't see him wanting to go anywhere near that conversation because he knows that he knows that they've been harsh to him, and in a neutral world that'd be good to see. But I just don't see him wanting to open up those wounds that have been closed, but not exactly, like, there's still scars there. There's still scars, we'll say. But that's just from a PR perspective. I think he should. I think it's good for learning and growth for those conversations to happen. But either way, ABC doesn't want Chris back. And let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment. We'll have more content coming to you guys right after this.